A win for the Orange. Way to keep the season on the rails still. They take this one from Virginia Tech, 41-36 on the road. A big road win. Just the second road win they've gotten against the Coastal since joining the conference. We're going to break everything down. Garrett Shrader was phenomenal in this game. 5 total touchdowns. We're going to get into all of his stuff, but guess what? There's still some problems on this team, and it starts with the people with the whistles in their mouth. We will dive into coaching, Shrader, all that stuff, and more. It's coming up on the Locked On Syracuse podcast.
You are Locked On Syracuse, your daily podcast on the Syracuse Orange, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up and welcome in. This is the Locked On Syracuse podcast. Thank you for making Locked On Syracuse your first listen every single day. Tyler Aki alongside Tim Leonard. We are free and available for you on all platforms. That includes YouTube. So be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and also subscribe to us on YouTube. Also check us out on Twitter at LO_Syracuse. We love tweeting along with you. We love interacting with you guys for better or for worse. There's some angry tweeters out there, even after a Syracuse win. But we're going to get into the play calling and just overall coaching stuff. But we have to start with Garrett Shrader in this game tonight.
Yes.
I mean, he was
what a game.
Lights out, a gamer from start to finish. And for me, I saw a turning point in him as a passer in this game. And there's a significant point in this game. It was the drive when there was about 6 minutes left in the second half. Or in the first half, I should say. 6 minutes left in the first half. Mechanically, he looked like a different passer. I don't know if you noticed this too, but a lot of the times when I see Garrett Shrader throw, he throws a football almost like a baseball, where the arm motion is coming away. It's a sweeping motion across his body. It felt a little tighter, a little more concise and to the point, and you saw his accuracy really improve significantly.
Yeah, I don't know if I actually noticed a mechanical change, and it's funny because Dino said something post-game that kind of encapsulates how I view his throwing, and he said a lot of weird stuff in his post-game presser that we get into.
How about the fact that right out of the gate, he's coming after Nate Mink? Like, he doesn't have an opening statement or anything. He just goes, Nate, why don't you start us off?
Yeah, right.
That was an attack for that DeVito article earlier in the week.
He did give a little hint as to why the end of the first half sequence happened and said it was some coaching. It's on him, full responsibility, but it was definitely on the coaches a little bit too. So if we forget to mention that, just bringing that up. But he did say about Garrett Shrader's passing, he said, he was like, look, guys, he can make throws. Like, I know you guys don't think he can, and it's not pretty. Like, he admitted, I'm paraphrasing here, but he admitted it's not pretty. And he was like, but look, he's going to be here for 2 years and we can clean things up with his mechanics. Probably not this year, but in the future, I'm excited. And that's kind of where I'm at. Like, he's working with the bad receiving core right now. The offensive line has been okay. I mean, he's still getting pressured a lot. We laid out those PFF numbers last week for you guys, and they're still moving the ball, and it's not pretty, but the guy just has that it factor, and he has that gamer in him that Tommy DeVito kind of lacked, and that's why we're rolling with him.
And this goes back to something I said, too, at the end of our final show of the Virginia Tech preview, getting into that game. And I said, whoever plays the quarterback position better is going to win this game. I'm not saying who's going to run the ball better at the quarterback position. Who is going to be the better thrower of the football? And Garrett Shrader found a second gear at a certain point at the end of the first half that led this team to victory. He was a lot sharper. Listen, it wasn't pretty, kind of like Dino alluded to. There's still going to be plenty of warts in his passing game. It's not just in this game, but the rest of the season. But those throws that usually weren't even close to on target for a receiver were now maybe a little behind or a little in front, but it was enough to give the receiver something to work with. And you got to give some of the receivers credit. They made some nice catches. That Damien Alford catch, by the way, little underthrown, but that's a hell of a catch by Alford on the game-winning touchdown.
I'm not going to get on Shrader, too, because he took such a big shot.
He knew he was getting hit. And the fact that he had the presence to stand in the pocket, I mean, you heard Dino talk about it post-game, too, how he was gasping for air when he came to the sidelines. That's a gamer throw, a gamer play. That's a gamer catch, too. Damien Alford has had some really nice snags this season, and I'm excited for him. From an offensive standpoint, he's probably one of the more promising things that this team has going for it right now.
Right, and that's what's cool here is it felt like that was our official, hey, Garrett Shrader era, it is here. It's arrived. And we're probably going to see him throw a lot to Damien Alford over the next 2+ years here, which is exciting. And that's the case for Syracuse and Dino Babers' future here is these wide receivers, they're only going to get better. And they're starting to get better as the season has progressed. Courtney Jackson has 7 catches in this game.
Yeah.
He's starting to actually figure it out a little bit.
He's done some nice stuff blocking too. So has Anthony Quealy. Both of them have gotten a lot better in the blocking game as well. Sherrod Johnson still has a little bit to show
but
me.
He made one nice contested catch is what I was going to say. Like there were some
Mm-hmm.
contested catches made in this game. Anthony Quealy still has been a little bit underwhelming. He dropped one that kind of let it
He also draws the number one corner every single game, which is something that I don't think he was expecting to do heading into this year. But since Taj has left, that's opened the door for that.
Right. And that's a good point. And Jermaine Waller did play from what I saw in this game, which we talked about in pregame, how they're in our pregame podcast, how that was maybe going to play a factor. But yeah, I mean, Shrader looked a heck of a lot better than Braxton Burmeister. And this was a dominant performance against a solid ACC defense. We had our questions going into this game. All right, how much of this offense is just them feasting on the weaker ACC defenses because what we saw against Clemson? After what we've seen now, though, we're 5 games into the Shrader experience. It's getting better and better, and I'd be very optimistic that it's going to continue to get better and better because these receivers are going to get better. He's going to get more knowledge of the offense. You figure he's going to get more comfortable. Maybe the fact that Tommy DeVito wasn't potentially replacing him in this game kind of opened him up to play his game more and play a little more free.
Yeah, we just got to hope he's playing next week, too, because that shot that he took at the end, I mean, those are some of the shots you saw Dungy take. Those are some of the shots you saw DeVito take. Those are the ones that knock quarterbacks out. And I don't want to see Jacoby and Morgan out there for next week. So that's to me, I mean, that's another thing that, listen, Shrader was great in this game. There were a number of plays where you were sort of holding your breath, too, where he was flipping through the air and stuff like that on some of these runs. He does have to do a better job at being a smarter runner and not taking some of these hits as a runner because he's exposing his body a lot. And let's face it, this team needs him at this point. They need him and they need Tucker. If they lose one of those two guys, this thing can go south really quick.
And I've been on that all season. I really think that's a huge concern about their prospects of going bowling. I have a bad feeling that that's going to happen. I mean, we saw Tucker leave the game for a moment with a owie, I guess Dino would call it, and they're playing hurt. I mean, the way Babers talks about him. Also, you see the photo with him wearing a boot afterwards. Shrader talking about how it's going to be a big training day tomorrow. So there's no doubt that's a huge concern going forward. I don't think he's definitely not as fearless as Eric Dungy as a runner, which is not saying much. Like, you can only be better than that or more protected than that. But I don't think he's too bad in that regard. The other thing I'll say about Shrader is when he first came out and when he was first thrusted into the quarterback position, he had more risky throws, more across his body over the middle of the field.
Mm-hmm.
He's really not throwing a lot of interceptions. I would have expected more to this point.
There were 2 in this game that I thought probably should have been picked.
But that's going to happen, right? Like I'm saying overall, though, it's better than we expected.
Right. He has to get better in certain regards. It's little things like throwing across your body at times, or sometimes he's trying to just get rid of the ball while he's being taken to the ground. He's a guy who wants 0 negative plays. And I think one of the things that's next for him in his development is realizing, okay, it's not bad to take a negative play every once in a while if it means you're not turning the ball over, not putting yourself at risk for some of these disastrous plays that may not be happening now, but down the road, you'd expect some sort of regression to the mean.
Yeah, the one thing I do like is a couple of his deeper passes or red zone type passes he overthrew, if anything. That's definitely the way to go, and that's something DeVito probably did too much of. But look, I wish Tommy DeVito all the best. It didn't work out here at Syracuse, but that play that Garrett Shrader made to Damien Alford is why we're going with Garrett Shrader, because DeVito's just not giving us that in that game. He's not putting up 41 points on the road at Virginia Tech. I wish it was the case. And again, I wish him all the best going forward, but Shrader just has more of that it factor. He's better equipped for a bad to shaky offensive line that is dealing with injuries. And who knows what the status is of some of the guys that left.
Yeah, that can get
Josh
really
Iloa comes in. Yeah, it's not great, but Shrader's fine back there because it fits his style more. And he just makes winning plays for us. Like, we go 4 for 4 on 4th down in this game. I have confidence in him. I had a weird sort of confidence that we were going to win that game. I can't really explain it. I talked about it I just felt like we were due all leading up to the week before, and I felt like it just was our time to finally get one of those close games to go our way. And even when we got down 2 possessions with about 5:30 left in the game, I still had this weird sort of confidence in Shrader and that team.
I want to get to you brought something up there. I don't even remember what you brought up there that piqued my interest. The fourth down stuff. I do want to talk about fourth downs. We'll get to that and some coaching stuff in a little bit. I've got a few more leftover Shrader thoughts too that I want to get to as well. But first, college football fanatics, have you heard about Prize Picks? It is daily fantasy made easy for college sports fans. I love it. Tim loves it, and we know you're going to love it too. It's the leader in college sports daily fantasy. They offer more props than anyone in the world. All the stars of the Power 5, as well as mid-major players that you probably haven't even heard of. So Prize Picks offers any prop you can think of, from yardage to touchdowns, even interceptions thrown. And all users that deposit and use our promo code LOCKEDON will receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100. You just got to use that promo code LOCKEDON. You pick 2 to 5 players, over-unders on their projections, and you can win up to 10 times on any entry. It's just you versus the numbers. They even let you cross over sports as well. So once you get into Syracuse basketball season, you can cross Joe Girard stuff with Garrett Shrader stuff. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun once you get into that crossover season, which is right around the corner. I can't believe it.
I know.
I'm looking forward to it. It is this week. So use the award-winning app on both the App Store and Google Play. It's safe, and it offers fast withdrawals as well. So don't hesitate. Check out prizepicks.com. Use the promo code LOCKEDON or go to your App Store and download the app today. Prize Picks is daily fantasy made easy.
Brutal beat, by the way, on the Sean Tucker over-under this week. I had put some of my friends onto it. I think it was 118.5. He had like 60 in the first drive and finished with 112.
Did he really? Line up. Oh, that's brutal. That's brutal.
But
and
still
listen,
pleased
he played
with
a hell
his
of a game. Very pleased with his performance. An ACC victory. And that's something I want to bring up with Sean Tucker and Garrett Shrader too. Because at the end of the day, each of them go over 100 yards in this game. But I feel like all of their rushing statistics should be put together. Like, they should be added together, because Garrett Shrader gets a ton of yards because of the threat that Sean Tucker provides, and vice versa. Sean gets a lot of yards because of what Garrett Shrader provides. That's why I think the team rushing number for Syracuse is so important here. It's the best in the ACC right now. Sean Tucker's leading the nation in rushing, and there's games where he's not even the leading rusher on his team, which to me is unfathomable to believe. Like, if you look at Kenneth Walker, Bijan Robinson, they're leading their team every single game in rushing. Sean Tucker, what is it now? 2 games where he hasn't been the leading rusher on this team?
Yeah, probably.
I'm just going off of memory right there. But it feels like their yards should be put together every single game. It is a team effort in the running game, and that's what makes it so special and fun to watch.
And by the way, we know he crossed 1,000 yards. I'm sure a lot of fans saw that. First one in the Dino era, first one since 2012. Also, he's on pace to break the single season record. It's 78 yards per game in the final couple games here, and he does it. I'm betting on that. I mean, he has continuously gotten over 100, and the weird thing is...
it's going to be an injury. That's the only thing standing in his way.
Yeah, which, gosh, we talk so much about injuries. We got to knock on wood over here. I'm scaring myself. That's really the concern, and maybe it's just our Dungy sort of background and having those seasons be derailed by that, and that's why we have our guard up. But I am worried about that. Overall, though, I think he's got a very good shot of getting that record, which is awesome. And it's a shame that we're not going to put 44 on his jersey anytime soon, but it's really cool what he's done. And the fact that was a bad game, right? 112 yards. He doesn't hit his over under. Like, how's that even possible?
Right. Yeah. I will say this. I think that 44 conversation is going to be reopened significantly this offseason. I really do.
You would have to think so.
I think you absolutely have to. And it's good to see John Wildhack's put his foot down on one issue, and it's the fact that Sean Tucker's not going to wear 44 for this team. Of all the places to have a backbone, that's where he's going to direct his attention. Another thing I want to bring up, too, with this offense is how they really flipped the switch in the second half. I noticed time of possession. They flashed the graphic up a couple times, including right before the half, and I think at one point early in the second quarter. Virginia Tech led the time of possession battle 11 minutes and 47 seconds to 5 minutes and 53 seconds at one point in this game. There was a almost 6-minute disparity early on in this game. At halftime, it was 17-13. That was the disparity in the time of possession in favor of Virginia Tech. When you get to the final box score, of time of possession in this game, Syracuse won the battle. They won the battle about 31 minutes to 28 minutes. I mean, for something like that to flip the way it did is unbelievably significant. it gave that defense some rest in the second half that they really needed because they were punched in the mouth a couple times in the first half. But there were some times where they came out with stands out of Syracuse scoring drives in that second half that were much needed and got this team a little bit of momentum.
Yeah, they still got that big stop, that Rob Hanna sack to give them a chance to, what I was just hoping for was give Andre Schmidt a chance, although that would probably have not gone well, as we saw in this game, and we'll get into that.
Special teams.
I don't know what's happening there.
I mean, there's a lot.
It's amazing how many things went wrong, and yet we still look at the final score, 41-36. Like, I just didn't see us putting up 550 total yards of offense in this game. It was a dominant offensive performance, and the fact that they scored 41, but they also had the 3-point swing on the 2-point conversion run back thing that was blocked. Schmidt missed a chip shot. I mean, I guess they did convert some fourth downs, and they were pretty good in the red zone when they got in there. I think they were 3 for 4 and capitalizing on red zone type of situations in this game.
That's where you want to be. You want to be 75%.
Right. So, I mean, look, they capitalized. And it's something about Shrader, like his ability to get in the end zone, rushing the football. He's got 12 rushing touchdowns in 5 games.
And that's the crazy thing is, like, it feels like Sean Tucker, if he's going to score a touchdown, it has to be from at least 15 yards out.
Yeah.
Because anytime they're within 10 yards, it's run. They're going to run some sort of read option with Shrader. He's going to keep it most of the time. It's the right call probably 95% of the time when he keeps it. And he gets into the end zone a heck of a lot of times. So you mentioned he's got a dozen touchdowns already. I mean, this red zone offense is night and day. I think I read a stat off from 2 years ago, or maybe it was a year ago, how this team
we were always outside the top 100, I think.
2 red zone rushing touchdowns. Like, how does that happen? I don't understand how that happens. And then it's been a complete 180 this year where anytime that you're inside of 20 yards, it almost feels like a lock to get into the end zone because you've got 2 guys that can create so much havoc in the red area.
Yeah, and that's why we should keep going forward on fourth down in plus territory. I was happy to see that we were aggressive in that regard, but that's a good nugget on the time of possession. I guess it helps that we got the ball to start the second half and they got it to start the first half. There were also just some explosive plays and some quick possessions on the Virginia Tech side of things that I did not expect. I don't know where that Malachi Thomas guy came from, but he's definitely their starting back going forward because he made some great plays. And really, Syracuse's defense, it was kind of like opposite day in this game. I was surprised that our run defense struggled that much.
I do want to get into the fourth downs real quick before we get into some coaching stuff. I want to tip my hat a little bit here to Dino because they went for it 4 times on fourth down in this game, and they got all 4 of them. One of them was
in our own territory. So that was cool.
Once. Yeah, that was. I believe that was a second quarter drive. I want to say. Maybe I'm wrong on the timing there,
remember. But they blur together.
They were very short yardage situations. You had the one got to have it on that final drive as well that they converted to.
Yeah.
But this was an aggressive coach. This was the Dino Babers we signed up for. This was the Dino Babers we saw back in 2016, 2017, 2018, who was uber aggressive on fourth down. And guess what? When you've got short yardage situations, this sort of quarterback as well that can run the football, when you've got that double-headed monster out of the backfield, there's no reason really anything short of your own 40-yard line, 4th and 3 or less, you got to go. You got to go for it because you've got the weapons to utilize it.
Yeah, that's the complex and weird thing about the coaching situation that I guess we can get into more after this quick break in a little bit, but it's just there's a lot of good stuff that Dino is doing out there. It's just the bad stuff is so bad. And the in-game
bad
coaching
stuff. Yeah, like the decision making. I think he got back to himself. He went full Matt Nagy BU on this. Usually going Matt Nagy is a bad thing, but I think in the case of Dino Babers, he got back to his identity of what made him successful early in his coaching career. And for Babers to go out and do that in this game, it ultimately won them the game. You extend a couple drives, you trust your guys. Like, this is a regression to the mean. We talk about this all the time, how the calculus behind a number of Dino Babers' decisions on fourth down early in the season were the right call. It was just you were so scarred by the result that you didn't think it was the right call in the moment because you didn't convert. This is a regression to the mean game where you go 4 for 4 on fourth down and he looks like a genius. Meanwhile, he's probably been doing the right thing on fourth down more times than not. We can nitpick into some of the field goals and stuff like that. I think you and I have had our differences on a couple, but usually going for it is the right call. And this is the perfect example of that. He regressed to the mean. Now down the road, he's probably going to have a game where he goes 1 for 4 on 4th downs.
Right.
And you're going to be killing him. But guess what? He's sticking to what he knows. He's sticking to the aggression that made him a good coach in the first place. And that's why this team won the game. Dino Babers refound what his identity is. And these 4th downs were the perfect encapsulation of that.
Yeah, and there's a microscope on every decision he makes now, as there should be, because he's made several bad ones. So I'm not trying to give him any credit here, but at the same time, when he does make a bad decision, Twitter is blowing up. And maybe it's getting to the point where it's a little tough to really justify what is warranted and what's not. It's an interesting situation because it's not like his decisions have been so bad. It's just they've all gone against him. And when they're all going against you, that falls on the head coach.
Yeah, it's easy to point the finger then. All right.
Right.
There were plenty of holes in the coaching staff as well this weekend. We're going to poke some of those because those can't happen down the road. And if they do, this team ain't going bowling. So we'll get into that in just a little bit. But first, Built Bar is the best tasting protein bar ever. If you haven't tried Built Bar by now, you are missing out. They say it's a protein bar, but it sure as heck does not taste like one. You got to try one of these amazing bars yourself to believe it. Most protein bars, they're chalky, they're waxy, they're just hard to eat sometimes. A Built Bar is soft, covered in 100% chocolate, and when you bite into it, you know you're eating something different. It's more of an experience, one that you'll enjoy. In fact, you'd swear you're eating a candy bar. Built Bars are low carb, low calorie, low fat, low sugar, and high in protein. So all the healthy benefits on top of being just purely delicious. And they come in so many great flavors. When you look at the coconut, raspberry, mint brownie, our favorite, the peanut butter brownie, they've got something for everybody. And this month, Built Bar is coming out with new limited time flavors every 3 to 4 days. So check their website often. You don't want to miss out. Go to built.com, use the promo code LOCKED15 and get 15% off your order. Use the promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at built.com. All right, where do you want to even start with the bad coaching in this game that nearly cost this team 1,000 times, it felt like? Let's start with the end of the first half, okay?
Yeah, I was going to say, let's just get that out of the way. We got to talk about it.
This comes down to personnel stuff, and this isn't again, Dino shouldered the blame for it post-game, and everything sort of falls under the Dino umbrella. But these are other coaches that don't have their positional groups ready, don't have the personnel sets ready in these certain situations. There's only so much handholding that Dino can do in some of these situations, right? He can't usher every single player out onto the field for all these different situations. There was the first time they had to call a timeout, they had 12 men on the field. Then the next time, Virginia Tech
after a timeout, which
after
is
the timeout,
I don't even know how that happened,
which is inexplicable for everybody. I mean, that's including Dino. And then the play after that on the 4th down, or no, was it the 4th down? Whatever. It was the last play that they had.
It was pretty much a 4th down.
Yeah, essentially 5 seconds.
No more timeouts. Yeah.
And no more timeouts. They go for it. They're running the ball. Virginia Tech calls a timeout. And I screenshotted this because I noticed this. They had 10 guys on the field. Syracuse ran an offensive play on a gotta have it play, essentially, with 10 guys on the field. And luckily for them, A, Virginia Tech called timeout, and B, they didn't get it, and Virginia Tech called timeout. So they lucked out big time. You can say, oh, well, like that should be a free 3 for Andre Schmidt, and he misses the field goal. There's a number of problems on special teams right now, but 10 guys on the field? What are we doing?
Yeah, especially after you had the problem of having 12 guys go out there, having to burn the timeout. What was that, like 2 minutes before they had run the last play, and they still couldn't get it right on the second time? You think, all right, if you're Sterling Gilbert, you run 12 guys out there, you huddle everyone up, and you say, all right, guys, let's calm down. These are the 11 we're going. Like, you just slow things down. You make sure you have it right the next time. That's laughable that they had 10 guys. And that was a good spot by you, because it's just – it's sad that it's that bad.
Funnier. You want to know what makes it even funnier for me? They had 5 offensive linemen. You're going to run a running play from the 1 yard line with 5 offensive linemen in a goal line situation. Like, what are you doing? I don't get. They knew it was a gotta have it play, essentially. They
I
knew it was
wonder
gonna be
who
a
was the
run.
guy that was missing. Maybe it's Elmore.
It may have been Elmore,
If
may have
Elmore
been
was
Mang.
hurt at
I'd
that
have
point,
to go back and
Mang.
check the personnel. I just know I counted up 10 bodies, and it looked like
Yeah.
there were receivers flanked out. I think it was a 3 receiver set. I'd have to go back and look at
Yeah,
the screenshot
I think
I
so.
threw out there, but it was, I mean, come on. That stuff cannot happen down the road.
Right. And was that the play that they tried like a fade to Alford? Or I'm trying to make sure I have it right.
So this was the one Shrader, he ran, but Virginia Tech called the timeout. So like the play kind of happened. They got stuffed.
Oh, I got
Then
you.
they ran in and said Virginia Tech called timeout before the play. Fuente was pissed, I remember too.
Right.
And that's part of the reason why he called timeout, was because he didn't think that the
Which is
officials
also
gave
like,
him enough
Fuente,
time
why are
for
you calling
substitutions.
timeout if they have 10 dudes out there? Yeah.
I don't think he realized there were 10 guys. He thought it was a substitution issue because he thought that the officials didn't give his team enough time to sub after that, which I think was a valid complaint, actually, going back and looking at it. But I mean, this is the stuff. And we had an angry tweeter. I sent this screenshot out and they were like, can't we just enjoy the win? And it's like, okay, yes, we can enjoy the win, but there's a reason there's one win in ACC play instead of maybe 3 right now. It's because of little things like this.
So that's the interesting conversation with where Syracuse football is at right now, because let's think about it. Going into this year, if I would have told you, all right, we're going to have the top rusher in the country, Sean Tucker, one of the best rushing offenses in the country. We're going to be averaging 30 points per game. We're not going to have been blown out once this year. We're going to exceed our over-under win total already 8 games into the season. We're 4-4. We're super competitive in ACC play. Dino made this gutsy call that no one thought he was going to make to go to Shrader. He stuck with him, which has proved to be the right call. Like, these are all things that I would have thought would have made Dino and Sterling Gilbert stock up, like more job security. Mm-hmm. But the in-game coaching is so bad
for everyone.
Yeah, it's just fascinating that that's all true, and we have this great rushing attack, and we're probably witnessing the most competitive team. We're the second most competitive team of the Dino era, I'd say, for sure, at this point.
Well, I mean,
this is a team
really,
that could make a bowl
of the
game.
last two tenures, this is probably the second most competitive team.
Yeah, right. And that's my thinking. It's tough to balance all that for me with still getting angry, because has Sterling Gilbert been good? No. But at the same time, since they've switched to Shrader and they've got the right quarterback back there and they've gone all in on this approach to catered around Sean Tucker because he's special, like there are several runs each game where Sean Tucker gets to the second level without being touched. And we don't have a great offensive line. So you have to give them some credit because they are getting results, and we scored 41 points on the road and it probably should have been more. But it's just tough too, because these in-game decisions just keep bucking their head, and it's really frustrating.
It's the thing, and this has been tweeted at us a number of times so far, and it's no novel concept by you or I, but like this team has won games in spite of the coaching, which is unbelievable with the way that some of these coaching moves have swung. And it's why we're frustrated too, because we should be looking right now at a team that has already locked up a bowl. Like seriously, this team should have already locked up a bowl, and coaching has held it back.
Yeah, but I guess I'm not all the way there on that take, just because we were two people that wanted Tommy DeVito to start against Liberty and wanted to stay with DeVito. And, you know, I wasn't advocating for him to come in against Clemson, but a lot of people were. And Dino stuck with that. And if Dino stays with DeVito here, I don't think this team's 4-4. So at the same time, like, don't we have to at least acknowledge that he made a tough decision?
Well, and again, it kind of gets into, it almost reminds me of like the Syracuse offense last year. Dino's hit on a couple of home run decisions, but it's what happens in the other couple of possessions and the other games here, the decisions between the big decisions. And it feels like all the little ones have failed to a degree, whether it's him, whether it's Gilbert, whether it's other coaches on the offensive staff. It's the little things, and it's mounted up to become a big thing with this team at this point.
Yeah, but I guess it's better that it's little things that he's missing on, and it's just all in-game stuff. Everything that he's done outside of in-game, I think he's done well. The fact that he has changed the offensive identity this year, he's made that call. He's getting results that no one really expected from this team. They're like 7-1 against the spread. They're 4-4 at this point in the year. That's more wins than I think you and I predicted for the entire season. A lot of people predicted. So I don't know. I'm not all the way there on like bashing the coaching, maybe to the degree that some fans are, but I do understand that these in-game decisions have to clean up, and it is holding us back. So it's just a tough thing to juggle with. I guess I'm just sort of talking out loud and trying to figure out where I'm at and how I'm straddling that line.
And I think Dino's frustrated with it too. I mean, if you listen to his post-game press conference, he took the blame, but he also, it felt like, took a little bit of a shot at the offensive coaching staff in this one for not having some things tightened up. Because he said it falls on me, but there's a lot of things that go down the pipeline to get to where we have a lot of these shortcomings personnel-wise. Before we leave, I do want to talk special teams real quick.
Okay.
Because there's that big play by Trey. And again, this was a classic Traber Pena game. He's going to give you a couple plays that are 2s. He's going to give you a couple plays that are 10s, right? He had that big kick return. I think that was his only kick return of the game, too. It felt like every time
they kept
Virginia Tech was
kicking
kicking it out of the end zone. So he wasn't given a lot of opportunities, but he has the big 51-yarder. But then you've got all these other little things that mount up. The missed field goal, the 19-yarder for Andre Schmidt. The one that's blocked, which honestly, like the one that's blocked, that's the least of my worries right there. I know it's a big play in the game, but you got to realize what happens on point after touchdowns here and the personnel that's on the field for those plays and why it feels like every time there's a block, it usually results in points. Because, Aqib Talib actually laid this out perfectly in I think it was his first game that he did on the NFL level, and it applies to college too. Think about the personnel that's out there during these PATs and any kicking formation, all right, for a field goal. It's not a personnel group that knows how to tackle guys. Like you have offensive linemen out there, a holder / which is probably a punter or a backup quarterback for you, and a kicker. That's not personnel that knows how to tackle. Meanwhile, on the other side, you've got some speed with a fair amount of defensive backs, linebackers, and some defensive linemen plugging up holes in the middle. Again, that play to me is the least of my worries of the special teams. Wonky things like that happen all the time. It's the missed field goal. It's these terrible punts that we're seeing time and time again by James Williams. Those are the things that need to be better.
Yeah, I saw some funny tweets like, can we start a GoFundMe for Justin Lustig, get him back here as quickly as we can? He's sorely missed. And again, I guess you could play devil's advocate with this one too and say it wasn't that long ago in college football that none of these teams really had a special teams coordinator or a specifically special teams coach. It's not like totally uncharted territory for Dino Babers to be working with the kicker and doing something else, or we don't know who is doing what, but the wide receiver coach to be working with some aspect of special teams as well. So I don't know if that's solely the reason it's happening, but it definitely needs to be reevaluated after this year. And I think Dino's even said that they're probably going to hire a special teams coordinator, you think, going into next year.
It's just one of those things where the more people you have in charge of it, the more football minds that have eyes on the situation, the less likely you're going to have silly mistakes throughout the course of a game. And I think that's the stuff that you look at it. This coaching staff, I think, is going to have some significant reset heading into next season. It looks like, I mean, this win essentially sealed Dino Babers for next season. He's coming back.
Yeah, we talked about it. It wasn't happening anyway. I think
there was a case to be made if they did finish 3-9. I think there was a decently strong case where there's enough angst build up at a 3-9 team. And that goes winless in the ACC, by the way. But big win on the road against Virginia Tech. You start to change the conversation a little bit, flip the narrative. But, I mean, if he did come back after a 3-9 year, I mean, it shows the lack of commitment to winning in the football program. It really does.
Right before we go here, yes or no, will they go bowling?
I'm going to say no. Just because
I'm on the yes side.
You're on the yes side now? You flipped?
They've turned a corner, and it's a bummer that they didn't get enough or they didn't get more W's out of the stretch where they had a lot of close games. But the fact that they have been so competitive, we keep playing that schedule game. But the bottom line is we thought Clemson was the toughest game left on the schedule. I think both of us. They lost that by 3. We thought Virginia Tech was going to be a tough game. Like now they're favored against BC by 4 points.
I had Virginia Tech and Boston College I had Boston College as the easiest win the rest of the way. Virginia Tech is the second easiest. So let's say they beat.
But you had Clemson as the toughest, and that's out of the way, and they played it pretty tight. So,
they played it
what's
tight,
left
but
now?
I still don't think there's enough in the tank to beat the NC States, the Louisvilles. I'm still very skeptical of them going up against some of those teams.
I think they're
really
going to beat BC, so then it's just one out of the last three. And it comes down to, do they stay healthy? Does Tucker and Shrader stay healthy for me?
I mean, if Shrader's out, I think you can kiss a bowl game goodbye, essentially.
Right.
But yeah. So, all right. So you're still on Team Bowl, and I'm still skeptical. I think this team needs to show it to me a few more times. I thought this was one of the easier games they had left. I really do. And they nearly didn't come away with it, too. That's another thing to keep in mind. But they finally got one to go their way, which is important. They're building up a little bit of confidence here. That's important moving down the stretch. Tomorrow on the show, we're going to get into some leftover football thoughts from this game, anything that may have missed our radar initially. And also, it's time to start cracking down on some hoops, Tim, because 10 Thoughts for Basketball is back. The orange and white scrimmage was over the weekend. We're going to start breaking things down for you hoops-wise. One segment a week, or one segment each show. We're going to get you a little bit of basketball stuff. So we're going to kick off our 10 thoughts. We're going to give you one thought each day the rest of the way, leading into the opener against Lafayette. So for Tim, I'm Tyler. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow.